Some psychologists believe a child's personality is formed by age 6. Certainly, positive and negative experiences later in life can cause alterations, but researchers believe the basic foundation of who we are is fairly well set at an early age. That all makes perfect sense when you examine the life of internationally acclaimed animal artist Matilda Lotz. But to tell her story, we must travel back 150 years and follow her path to painting.
A child of privilege, playing upstairs in a 2-story custom-built antebellum home, Matilda Lotz is surrounded by creativity.
Flowers at the top of each column, acorn finials on the eaves that surround the roof line. There's a massive acanthus leaf scroll underneath the portico.
It is the beautiful world into which Matilda is born. Her father, master craftsman Johann Albert Lotz, spent 3 years designing and constructing this house, believing it to be a safe haven for his family.
He does not use slave labor. He will build this home by himself. It's a show home, a model home, a working resume. All of the millwork in the house, the crown molding, cornices above the downstairs doors, upstairs doors and windows.
The Lotz family settles into their peaceful, quiet country home just 1 mile from downtown Franklin. And for the next few years, Johann's attention to artistic detail establishes a fine reputation for his family and instills in his children a love of art.
Matilda, no doubt, is watching that artistic ability to her father, because you sculpt and carve all of this out of wood, you first have to draw it.
A little girl mimicking the actions of the adults around her, Matilda begins to experiment with her own abilities. Her father's passion is working with wood, but Matilda's calling comes through her connection to the family's cattle.
She goes out back behind her daddy's house, and in the dirt, she will get a stick, and she will start to draw all of her family farm animals.
She would select one animal a day, and she would really look and study that one animal. And then with that stick and that soft Tennessee soil, she would begin her art, and she would make line drawings of that one animal again and again and again and again. And the dearest thought is, if one didn't come up to her specifications and her ideals, she'd take a little bare foot and swish that dirt, erase her art, and she would do it again.
The safety and serenity of her backyard studio will soon be shattered. Matilda celebrates her 6th birthday on November 29, 1864, 1 day before the Battle of Franklin.
This family, the Carters across the street, the McGavick's a mile away, the town of Franklin, 750 people, will all go to sleep not having a clue what's headed their way.
Over 20,000 federal soldiers marching north to Nashville find themselves stuck in Franklin. Unable to work their way around Harpeth River floodwaters, they dig an entrenched line a couple hundred yards from the Lotz home.
They will tear down his barn, stable, his outhouse, his smokehouse, his detached kitchen. They level his all-important woodworking shop.
As more troops move in, Matilda's father recognizes that his family's safe haven of wood is not going to be a good place to hide from the hailstorm of musket fire and cannonballs.
They will walk through all these federal troops, and then will go 110 steps across the street to the Carter house. As it's made of brick, it's got a large brick basement. And again, Mr. Lotz has the foresight, the wisdom to know that if there's a chance to survive what's coming here that afternoon, their odds are much better in that structure.
It's an Indian summer afternoon in Middle Tennessee. A bright crimson-red sun is setting in the west. A crescent moon is coming up in the east. The 3 families huddled in the Carter house basement won't see it, but they will hear all hell breaking loose around them.
family actually counted later on that the sounds of this battle were so loud they couldn't even hear themselves scream.
It is 19 long hours in the dark, damp, cold basement before Matilda and the others see what they have survived.
None of that family will be able to take a step without stepping on the body of a dead American soldier.
When you walk from the Carter house back over here and you see all the carnage that had been done and the awful things that happened in that battle, that had to be significant, especially for a child of 6. She saw men being shot and killed around her, and she saw animals being slaughtered for food, and a stray bullet hit her pet calf.
The cattle Matilda considered her precious pets are now just broken-hearted memories. But she still has the dirt where she can draw. And as an incredibly resilient young lady, Matilda has a fiery passion kindling within her to accept what has happened and move on.
Kids in the area who experienced it ended up turning to alcohol later in their life because they couldn't cope with the memories.
It may sound a little harsh. It frees her up to go and do and see things as a single woman that were unheard of in her lifetime.
The heart Matilda had for her animals continued to beat when the war was over. She couldn't save their lives, but years later, having left Tennessee for sunny California, she would capture on canvas that special bond she had with them.
You can see it in the faces of the cattle and of the sheep, this tenderness that she felt for them, and you can see it in her painting.
Thousands of visitors to Tennessee have seen Matilda's paintings since the Lotz family home opened as a historic Civil War museum in October 2008. One of the favorites, a painting she called Sheep at Rest, was the first one purchased and put on display.
Art connoisseurs that have seen that painting say that, oh, the faces are wonderful, but in those 3 sheep, it's the wool that is so well executed and presented in her art.
Following in her father's artistic footsteps, Matilda was then encouraged by her brother Paul to pursue a place in the male-dominated art world. She studied first in California, but then traveled to and trained at the prestigious Paris Academy.
Matilda's a quick study. She will be the very first woman at that school to win 2 gold medals.
Her painting of a donkey, donated to the Lotz house and hanging near the entrance, is an example of the influence Matilda's education had on her already existing passion for animals.
The transition was beginning to occur when she got to Paris between realism and impressionistic. And the donkey is so exciting because the donkey herself is extremely realistic. If you put a jeweler's loop, you can see little guard hairs down on her tummy.
We work on a 2-inch square at a time. And then
no one sees the intricate detail of Matilda's work more than the Nashville art conservator commissioned by the Lotz house to preserve each painting that is acquired.
she's excellent. She's caught all the warmth of the animals, and they're not stiff, and there are no hard edges. Her edges are all soft. I am overwhelmed at the quality of the work, and it's just my joy to perform the work on these paintings.
As the collection continues to grow, the Lotz house has obtained Matilda's earliest documented painting. According to descriptions passed down by Lotz family descendants, the wolf was painted in a covered wagon as the family left the destruction of the war behind them.
When they left Middle Tennessee, Matilda was 11 years old. When they arrived 2 years plus in San Jose, she was 13. Somewhere while home was that covered wagon, she painted the wolf. It's naive, but it is well executed, and I'm sure some of that dirt art out in the crowd served her well.
The war would also serve her in a manner no one could have predicted. Matilda not only found her way around in an atmosphere of male-dominated art, but she literally worked her way around the world unchaperoned.
This is a young woman who is so fearless, she's so bold that she will board a small boat by herself. She sails down the Nile River to Egypt, where she spends the next 10 years painting pyramids, camels, streets of Cairo.
Often considered California's premier female pioneer artist because of her first real training there, Matilda also remains highly regarded throughout Europe. Of course, Tennessee is where some suggest she spent her most impressionistic years.
Not only were there dead people, but there were so many dead animals likewise. I think all of that fed into her art, made her tenacious and made her strong, because she did have such a strong life of overcoming all of that. You have to understand that the events here had to affect a little 6-year-old girl that became a world-class artist and painted wonderfully and painted beautifully.
But the story doesn't end here. In a full circle turn of events, Matilda will live through another war. Fleeing from Algeria to Hungary during World War I, Matilda is forced to leave behind her own precious paintings.
Losing her art at that stage in her life is the breaking moment for her. She will spend the balance of her life trying to reclaim whatever was in her personal art collection, whatever she had painted, and we'll never know what it is. But for her, it was almost a loss that was unbearable.
No one knows for sure how many Matilda Lotz paintings still exist, but art collectors are keeping watch for her work.
I've seen $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 paintings out there, yeah. And then, of course, there's smaller ones that are less than that. But here at the house, we're trying to collect as many as we can.
The whole story is so enthralling. It's so awesome that they were able to save the house, and to hear the history, you just get caught up in it, and you want to be involved in this endeavor and save everything you can get regarding the Lotz family. It's amazing how far she went as a single woman. It's just amazing.
A very wise man once said, most people think you die once, and that's when you die. That's when you take your last breath, but actually you die twice. You die when you take your last breath, and you die when they quit telling your story. In many respects, we're trying to keep Matilda's story alive in Tennessee.
A child of privilege, a victim of circumstance, an eyewitness to the American Civil War, a casualty of World War I. Matilda Lotz rose above it all to become one of the truly great female pioneer artists. And it all started with a drawing in the dirt on Tennessee soil.
If animals can truly sense fear in people, then the opposite is also true. They can sense a lack of fear. While painting at the zoo in Bern, Switzerland, witnesses reported seeing Matilda Lotz put her hands through the bars on the cages to pet the bears. She also went on to paint people, including George Hearst, the father of William Randolph Hearst, and California Governor Leland Stanford, the founder of Stanford University.